Okay, hey guys, how are we? Looking at a practitioner refresher. So, just going over some of the key approaches and philosophies, methodologies, whatever you want to say, but the key approaches of our practitioners that we've learned so far. Okay, so this is an overview of all of them. So, we've got from left to right, we've got Konstantin Stanislavski, Stella Adler, Robert Lepage, and Bertolt Brecht. Konstantin Stanislavski through to Robert Lepage are all for Unit 1. Bertolt Brecht is what is added for Unit 2. And we're also going to look at people like Rudolf Laban as well and build on those. Okay, so let's look at these specifically. Okay, when we talk about our designer practitioner, any practitioner that we link to design, Robert Lepage is our man. Okay, he is the person that we refer to. For any other question, okay, actor or director related, not dramaturge, leave that aside for now, but actor and director related, we're going to look at Konstantin Stanislavski, Stella Adler, and Bertolt Brecht. Robert Lepage, designer, key approaches and key beliefs is all about movement on stage and chaos on stage, okay? And these are the things that I want you to relate to, all right? So I'm going to try and move this. I'm probably just going to leave that one there. The first being historical spatial mapping, which is placing history on stage, allowing us to see and view the historical, the social, and the cultural context in particular ways that you have purposefully built on that stage. So set pieces that refer to historical symbols or projecting possibly symbols onto a cyclorama or a scrim. You know, for instance, you might project if we're talking about speaking in tongues in the Australian context, you might be projecting some of the iconic leaders, prime ministers that we've had in Australia. So you might start with a projection of John Howard and move on to Kevin Rudd, okay, Julia Gillard, so on and so forth, whatever you wanted to do. But that is that historical spatial mapping, projecting or presenting historical moments, cultural moments, social context on the stage, okay? Metamorphosis scenography, movement on stage, creating a dynamic stage space, as Robert Lepage would put, which is rhythm and movement as a principle of design on the stage space. So whenever there's movement on stage, metamorphosis scenography is your go-to key approach. Okay, they're the two that I really want you to use. If you wanted to use the performing body as a meaning maker, all that is just using the actors' bodies to form shapes or to form symbols of your set. So maybe, you know, they present a human symbolic tableau that presents as a bridge, okay? And then that's utilized. That would be the performing body as a meaning maker, and that ties in with his ideas of a minimalist space, okay? Or, on the contrary, a chaotic space. We have Konstantin Stanislavski. Now, the only two that I really want you to work with are the first two there, tempo rhythm and circles of attention. Tempo rhythm is all about movement, okay? It's all about the way that we move our body, and it's all about psychological action, okay? So we have tempo, which is our internal action, what we're feeling inside, the emotions, the mental state, the mind state, the psychological or the psyche of our character in that one particular scene, okay? And then the rhythm is how the body reacts or juxtaposes against that, okay? So our tempo and our rhythm may move at the exact same pace or time, or it might move at contradicting or juxtaposing times, okay? So, for instance, if we're, feeling quite nervous, but we're trying to act really cool, so say that you're in a job setting, an interview setting, your tempo inside would be really nervous, frantic, chaotic, time heightened, all right? Whereas the outside would be trying to remain cool as possible, be slow and sustained, okay? Sedated, endured, all right? So that would be tempo rhythm there. Psychological action. Circles of attention are all about identifying what your character is connecting to, okay? Or what you as an actor are connecting to. So circles of attention can be used for performance and rehearsals. Really good one to use for both. But we start quite intimate with our inner circle is our intimate circle, our personal circle. And as we progressively widen those circles, we become more connected to the things, objects, people, characters around us. And that becomes our public space. So when we link into what Patsy Rodenberg talked about, which is the idea of a first circle energy that falls back onto yourself, when you're in that state, you are as intimate as possible. with just yourself, okay? And as it grows, you start to project more energy outwards. Second circle energy, connecting to characters around you. Third circle energy, opening up, broadening up, and connecting with, features across the space. All right. So the circles of attention, all about focus, okay, and connection with particular objects. Objectives is there. Look over it. It's not something that I want to see you guys create in your exam. Stella Adler, 2 primary ones, okay? Collective consciousness, script interpretation. You could then focus on cultivation of a rich humanity if you would like to. I know that some of you are quite strong with that, but let's focus on collective consciousness and script interpretation. Collective consciousness is all about use of space. So whenever you have a question that talks about use of space, collective consciousness should be your go-to, okay? Collective consciousness is all about you attaching particular memories to objects around the space, okay? And how that inherently builds dramatic tension, or how it engages or develops your characterization, what you're building, okay? So, for instance, the couch in the middle of the space for speaking in tongues. For Pete, you might attach a negative memory to that couch. A negative memory, for instance, of when Jane first breaks it to Pete that she's been cheating on him, that she's been having an affair. That's the negative memory that you place in that space. So whenever Pete goes to that couch, he should feel saddened, depressed. He should feel that angst. He should feel that worry. Okay, so we should be able to see that in that character whenever he moves to that space. Okay, on the flip side, he might attach, or you might attach rather, a positive memory to something upstage, okay, or downstage rather. So downstage, maybe towards the audience. Say near a lampstand, and there's a picture of their wedding day, okay, Jane and Pete's wedding day, and you might attach a positive memory to that, positive memory of your wedding day, when you were both incredibly happy, the best day of your life, okay? So whenever he moves towards that lampstand, we should be able to see that distinct change, we should be able to see that distinct change in negative to positive, okay? Collective consciousness, all about that. So that can happen in the rehearsal process, or you can talk about it as you were approaching that in performance. Script interpretation is the rehearsal process. It's everything that you're doing to appeal to the playwright's intentions. So you're deconstructing the script. Whatever you do to the script in order to understand it better is what we call script interpretation. Okay, so a couple of activities we've done. The first is identifying beats, actions, and objectives. Okay, this can help to build into our script interpretation. Another activity we did is talk about minor and super objectives. This is something that links into script interpretation. And lastly, we did a linear extraction, where we looked at all the lines that were said about our character when they were there and about our character when they weren't there. Everything our character said about other people when they were there or when they weren't there. So that linear extraction, okay, minor and super objectives, beats, actions, and objectives, all helps to appeal to script interpretation. Best used in rehearsal process. So whenever you get something that says, how will you approach this in a rehearsal manner, script interpretation is your go-to. Cultivation of a rich humanity, all about building experiences, okay, and developing yourself as an actor. The richer the actor, the richer the character you're able to create in space, in the space. And Bertolt Brecht, okay? Bertolt Brecht, I'll run over quite quickly, so you can skip this and come back to it when we approach Unit 2, but Bertolt Brecht has 2 primary ones and a third that's really popular as well. The first being the Verfremdungseffekt, okay? When you write this, you would write Verfremdungseffekt, and then you would place V-effect in parentheses, all right? And then refer to it as V-effect from then on. Otherwise, you're writing Verfremdungseffekt every single time, and that is just going to be unnecessary. Verfremdungseffekt literally means to make strange, or it's the an effect of making strange. You are trying to take an everyday concept, idea, or action, and you are trying to warp it to make it look as strange as possible or as weird as possible to freak out your audience. All right, you want them to be questioning the very action that you're presenting on stage. Whoa, what's going on there? That's not how I've seen it in the past. That's not how I remember that. I'm unfamiliar with that. I've detached myself from what's going on here. That's exactly what you want. The idea is that you detach them, okay, from the performance, allow them to adopt an attitude of inquiry and criticism. Historification is about setting performances or ripping people back into the past and presenting the parallel from the past to the present. So, a lot of Bertolt Brecht's work came out of, the experiences of World War I and World War II. World War I primarily, where the Germans felt that they were on top in the war, and then they were winning the war, and then from a top-down system, they were told to retreat because they were losing, and everyone on the forefront thought that they were winning. So when they were told to retreat, they started to distrust the structures that had put them there in the first place. So his effect of historification is to try and place us in that cultural time or that cultural space, particularly among war and the reasoning for war and everything that surrounds war, and project parallels with current day in current society. Okay, how are they similar? How are they the same? How are they different? Okay, so whenever we place something in a context of war, all right, and we draw a parallel to contemporary society, that is historification. Okay, again, for that detachment of emotion, that detachment of anything, so that they can start to question what's going on. And the last one is gestus, okay, which is like gesture, symbolic gesture, which is supposed to identify or reflect social attitude or social context or something about our characters and our characters' journeys that we're not getting from a regular representational gesture. Very presentational, very stylistic. Okay, the idea being that you are presenting something that is symbolic rather than literal. Okay, so it's a large or small gesture that is, rather than literal, it is symbolic of something greater. Your turn here. What I would like you to do is I'd like you to try and really, really quickly, pause in a moment, summarize 2 of the core approaches from each of our core practitioners. Okay, and if you feel like you are able to do that, then I feel that you're ready to be able to do that in a written exam context. And if you're not ready to do that, then you need to watch that first part again and try and make meaning of at least 2 of all of those core approaches. Okay, so pause the video anytime now and allow yourself a moment to write that down and revise that on paper. Cool. That is basically the end of this one, guys. Obviously you can ask me more questions in class, but hopefully this has been able to clarify some of the key questions and again, put into some context these core practitioners, because these guys are incredibly important. You're going to be using these guys, the methods and the approaches and philosophies of these practitioners right the way through to the end of year 12. Okay, thanks guys.